Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are joined again with our favorite guest on the channel, Xavier Ayral. Xavier, thank you for coming back to speak through this new Vatican document. How are you, mon ami?
Very well, and you, laddie? How are you?
Oh, I'm very good. I was going to say muy bien, but that's Spanish. I keep getting mixed up with the languages. So we have a very much anticipated new document that's came out from the Vatican just in the past day of this recording. It's titled from the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, Norms for Proceeding in the Discernment of Alleged Supernatural Phenomena. I haven't read it all. I've read a good chunk at the beginning, the introductory, and where it's going on, given its reasons for this new change, because the norms are getting changed since 1978, I believe, and it goes into reasons why, then it gives new points of reference, as well as what they think they're going to be bringing in positives and negatives in discerning Marian apparitions and other supernatural phenomena. We had a very brief discussion just beforehand, and I thought first impressions, without diving too deep into it, it came across okay, but maybe I'm easily swayed into that way or not. I don't know. But what's your own first impressions of it?
Uh, for me, it's quite this maneuver from Cardinal Fernandez is quite obvious. I've listened to a couple of appreciations from other commentators on the internet yesterday evening and this morning again. I do not happen to share 100% any of them. No. When I was working with Father Laurentin, first of all, I saw how much of a cornerstone the the actions of the bishop are absolutely imperative and of primary importance. Now, this Cardinal Fernandez is taking absolutely every single solitary power of authority of the bishop regarding the investigation and the proclamation of a final investigation undertaken on any alleged apparition site from now on forth. Now, when Father Laurentin was working, for instance, with Betania at the time, it was already approved, but thanks mostly because of Father Laurentin and of the scientific and theological research he made upon Bianchini. No, he used to work with Monsignor Pio Bello Ricardo, who was the head of the entire process of investigation and approval, no? Which, of course, afterwards he sent to the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, which was at the time headed by His Eminence Cardinal Ratzinger. Well, in this instance, everything is taken away from the bishop. He will not be authorized to make a proclamation or to even share his own personal opinion. Although I understood that for Pizzig is a contradiction with the new excuse me, politics of the Vatican. After all, it did not make public the famous synod of synodality, even including inviting Protestant authorities, female priests, and the likes. But on this particular case with the Virgin Mary, no, no, no. Now we'll take away the words, the opinions, the freedom of speech of nothing less but the local bishop to whom these particular cases involve most of all. It's clear that what the purpose of this particular maneuver or move on the part of Fernandez was to leave complete and total carte blanche to him and to the hierarchy in the Vatican, principally the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, which by sheer coincidence he heads. No? So that's going to make it very difficult even for a bishop whenever there is an alleged apparition site reported in his archdiocese to start an investigation. Because now, from now on, everything that is brought forth to his attention is going to have to forward it straight to Rome and hope that thousands of miles away, the appreciation of the report or the event that is being reported to the Archbishop will be shared accordingly, by the proper authorities in the Vatican, who are not there, who do not have eyes on the ground or ears in the air to listen and to know, to study clearly what is happening in these particular local places. This is meant, what's more, to stop any spreading of any alleged apparition sites and messages, including there were some penal threats. Penal threats. That is left also to interpretation. What does that mean, penal threats? In old times, that meant jail. In this instance, the first thing that came to mind is, again, I could be wrong, but I am yet to be proven wrong on this particular subject. Would it be excommunication? Makes me wonder. This is a serious threat. In this particular document, it says that the church will not approve any message, supposedly divine or not, that would go against the current of the Roman Catholic Church politics and direction. Wow, there is a major conflict of interest in there as well. This is not done to help the investigation of alleged apparition site. This is done to impede it, to make it more complicated, and to leave it to the choice of one party that is not involved and that is far, far away from these alleged apparition sites. This will complicate and hinder any investigation worthy of this name, of any alleged apparition site. It's done on purpose. And what's more, it gives also authority to different interpretation to the different articles, which also come to, or rather bring to the table matters of approved apparition sites or recent apparition sites which have been recently approved. To name but the most recent of them all, Akita. They will not declare, according to the same document, any case as being supernatural. That is a matter of the past. They will never accept. The best case scenario the church will grant to an alleged apparition site is the Nihil obstat, which they will consider as being acceptable for people to go and provide cult, go and visit, but they will never declare something as being supernatural. Really? Really? So what about Akita, for Pete's sakes? Akita, where they have, among other things, not only a stigmatist, visionary, who happens to be the religious, Sister Agnes Sasagawa, but what about then the statue, the wooden statue of Our Lady of All Nations in the convent of the Little Sisters in Japan, of Akita, which nothing more than had the stigmatas of her hands with blood source completely undefined, unknown, or a statue that wept 101 times, tears of a human person, a woman, and even sweat of a woman, of a human being, whose sources are to this day unfounded, unproven, unfound. The science altogether is up to this day, in the year 2024, incapable of explaining the origins of the blood coming from that statue, or the tears coming from the same statue, or the sweat of the same statue. Let alone, let's not even talk about the stigmata of Sister Sasagawa herself, no? So all this is placed into question and leaves carte blanche for the authorities and the hierarchy in the Vatican, principally headed by Cardinal Fernandez, to decide what to do on future possible apparition sites and eventually even on old ones.
Okay.
It's it's incredible. I never thought
I
would come to leave this.
Yeah, you're kind of making me think I have to reread some of it again and the rest of it, because the first impression I got, obviously they start off, explaining what it is, how it's coming about, and then they give examples as to why they have to do it, which I could kind of understand. Now, you mentioned Akita there, so with the new norms and what the bishop has to do and how he has to set it up, from the pastoral point to the actual part where he's looking to see if anything's supernatural or scientific. The bishop in Akita, Bishop Ito, did a great job in doing it correctly. So I would like to think, with all that getting put forward to the dicastery, if it was today, would be seen with them that he's done everything to the letter and then some. So important that the fact that Cardinal Ratzinger, once he saw his report face to face, as you've said in previous videos, but also the message that he knew straight away related to the third secret of Fatima and declared it there and then as worthy of belief. But I would say when I was first reading it, this is why it's important, why maybe they have to take a bit more of a revised approach in this day and age with social media, internet. I mean, I think I'm hearing alleged seers popping up left, right, and centre. Some don't even want to have their names out there, they remain anonymous. It's a lot of apocalyptic messages and things like that. But I look back to Medjugorje and Garabandal. They're two massive apparitions with significant messages, and the magnitude of Medjugorje as it still goes on. I still get some people leaving the comment, few that they are, saying, "Oh, you never. What about what the bishop first said?" And they keep going back to over 40 years ago. Whereas look at everything the Vatican has done and taken over and shrine status. The bishop is there all the time. That pastoral connection to see the fruits, to witness the fruits. Have the commission been over for 3 years? So they're kind of doing a lot more. But then you look at Garabandal, was it the third Bishop of Santander in 1992, again to Joseph Ratzinger? What have I to do with this mess? And he gave the clear slate, and that's where it's been ever since. I think the bishops need to be forced by the supremacy of the Vatican to step up and do things better and more thorough and to be answerable for it when they submit it. Do you not think?
I agree. I agree with you. But I don't think by taking away the powers from the bishops, because that's going to help. And for all the entire authority and jurisdiction on these alleged apparition sites to be exclusively kept for Rome, when in some instances they will be half a planet away, that will help the situation. No. With Garavandal, there was one particular bishop that was very much in favor of it, did not give its seal of approval, but he was very intrigued and very much believing. Now, if the situation were another case, or rather, let's imagine hypothetically speaking, that there is a new place anywhere in the world where the Virgin appears, and it's been given a great deal of supernatural proof, such as, for instance, let's say Fatima. If Fatima were to happen again today, and there was a miracle of the sun on October 13, let's say 2025, the church will not recognize that particular event as miraculous. They will not. And although they are in Rome, they will think themselves qualified to decide whether or not this apparition site is authentic or not, although some of the messages might not be very flattering for the Catholic Church. That's where the conflict of interest lies. There will be no objective study or judgment. As I said, I've seen Father Laurentin work with different bishops. I worked myself with one in Venezuela on another apparition case, which I was working years ago with my brother Philippe. On this particular case, it was absolutely vital for us to work with a bishop that was immediately available, who knew the sources, who knew the locale, who was able to assign a priest to this particular case to investigate. It was considerably better. I can't imagine that happening today with somebody in Rome who doesn't know the locale, doesn't know the geography, doesn't know the culture, the local culture of the particular place, finding itself adequately in place to be able to make a judgment of sort, or to tell the local bishop what to do. As I said, these new norms, these new regulations open the door and give completely freedom to the congregation of the doctrine of the faith, particularly to him who heads it, to do however he wills. And he can use any arguments at all to justify the unjustifiable. I'm even forced to wonder because it's well known, for instance, again, to come back to Akita, that the local bishop of Akita today He's doing everything his imagination allows him to keep Sister Agnes Sagawa quiet. Why? Do not ask me. The bishops of Fatima did the same thing with Sister Lucia dos Santos when she was alive. She was not able to receive any visits from journalists, writers, or anything involving the media. The same thing is happening today with Sister Agnes Sagawa. And her message, her public message of October 13th, 1973, was not particularly flattering for the Catholic Church at the time or now. So, I am forced to wonder if tomorrow the bishop says, well, the present bishop of Vatican says, well, look, we've done a review of the investigation of the situation, and in virtue thereof, we place it all again under principal review by Rome, and Rome might decide, well, we don't recognize the miraculous, the supernatural in this particular event, nor of the cataclysmic or countercurrent message that supposedly the Virgin Mary is bringing forth through visionary Agnes Sagawa. Is completely contrary to the present political current that the Vatican is trying to adopt. It's very possible it could happen. I don't think that if the bishop were to do that today, that Rome would wave it with the back of its hand. I think they will take that very seriously. I'm very concerned, and I, for one, find absolutely no trust in this new direction adopted by Cardinal Fernandez, author of two magnificent pieces of work. Two books that are, I remind you, nothing less but collections of sheer and utter obscenities, which involve even our Lord Jesus Christ. Forgive me, but this is exactly how I feel.
Yes, try to trust the same man with what kind of reputation, what's his brand, as an employer would say, what's coming out. And again, Fiducia Supplicans seems to be the nuclear shock that went around the world. I even had a continent of African bishops stand up in unity against them, and also with Fiducia Supplicans, and also many priests and bishops around the world joining their voice. Diplomatic relationships gone with the Orthodox Church because of it as well. So now he's proposing this, and although I didn't read Fiducia Supplicans, I'm very much aware of it in the commentaries and stuff. However, the same person, the same man is now writing about this. Is like, where do we trust him with his own discernment, his own agenda? But again, it has to be submitted to the Pope, doesn't it? I just want to clarify though, then, since we've got out what you've took of it and a little bit of what I've taken of it. The three judgments that were in place before, constat, the supernaturality, is confirmed to be of supernatural origin. Non-constat, the supernatural, oh my words, supernatural. I'm Scottish, forgive me. It's confirmed. I'll stick to the English. It's confirmed to be of supernatural origin. It is not confirmed to be of supernatural origin. It is confirmed to be not of supernatural origin. So it's the case it's confirmed to be either supernatural or it's confirmed to be not of supernatural. And then you've got that middle ground. We can't confirm it is supernatural, but at the same time, can't say it's not. So those were the three. But now we're moving on to the new norms. Is that correct?
Well, yes. Before, under the time of Father Laurentin, who was the foremost expert in Marian apparition sites around the world, whenever there was an alleged apparition site, the local bishop called upon him to investigate it accordingly. The supernatural factor was imperative to determine whether something came from heaven or not. It was absolutely necessary. Now that taking that away, they are alleviating the importance of all future apparition sites, which could be always be left in limbo as to whether or not we truly have a true proof that this comes from heaven or not. The supernatural aspect of an alleged apparition site was of the utmost importance, because it was the print of God that was given upon a message that was in perfect synchronicity with the deposit of the faith, with the call of conversion, with a call to convert through the sacrament of the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, through the call to prayer and change one's life. And when the supernatural added the print, the seal, the signature of God upon a message that was perfect and in accordance with the dogma of the faith. Now there is no more that. Leaving the possibility for every alleged apparition site to be argued, discussed, and questioned. So they're trying, in other words, in my interpretation of the situation, to ligotage, to put to make, I can't find a word in English, only in French, to muffle message from heaven through these visionaries. That's a great. It's causing harm. It's not helping. It's causing harm, and it will take importance and credibility from all present and future apparition sites from this moment forth, because the Church has taken away the importance and the authority of the bishop and has declared that there will no longer be supernatural seal or recognition by the Roman Catholic Church about any alleged apparition site. It's appalling, utterly appalling.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit back a couple of things for the sake of seeing both ends, because I know people will be commenting on this. And the link's in the description box for people to go to the Vatican site to read it for themselves. It's not the longest document, but it seems to construct, as always, getting to the points. I just want to read a couple of parts, because one part, again, that did stand out for me, and I don't know if I'm getting the right one here. It was one of the paragraphs saying why they were changing it. It was like, moreover, it should be noted that reaching a declaration affirming the supernaturalness of an event by its very nature not only requires a suitable amount of time to carry out the analysis, but it can also lead to the possibility that a judgment of supernatural today might become a judgment of not supernatural years later. And precisely this has happened. An example worth recalling is a case involving alleged apparitions from the 1950s. In 1956, the bishop issued a final judgment of not supernatural, and the following year the Holy Office approved the bishop's decision. Then the approval of that veneration was sought again. In 1974, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith declared the alleged apparitions to be constat de non supernaturalitate. I'm saying it again. Thereafter, in 1996, the local bishop positively recognized the devotion, and in 2002, another bishop from the same place recognized the supernatural origin of the apparitions, leading to the spread of the devotion to other countries. Finally, in 2020, at the request of the congregation, a new bishop reiterated the congregation's earlier negative judgment, requiring the cessation of any public disclosures regarding the alleged apparitions and revelations. Thus, it took about 70 excruciating years to bring the whole matter to a conclusion. Now, I don't know over the 90, I've done a video on it before. Is that not the one that's to do with Our Lady of All Nations in Amsterdam? Because I think it's just a few years ago it got the thumbs down. And I have a friend that was mentioning it because he's friends with the community over there.
Yes, there was a Lady of All Nations, is a Lady of Amsterdam. He was originally practically condemned by the local bishop because principally was bringing forth the notion and the devotion of Our Lady, mediatrix and co-redemptrix, as a title thereof. No, the Catholic Church, from my sources in Holland, told me that the Catholic Church indeed was in favor and does recognize to a certain point the co-redemptrix nature of the Blessed Virgin Mary by having suffered during the Passion of our Lord, giving her Son away and suffering, seeing him suffer. No, but the Catholic Church at the time thought that such a declaration would be misinterpreted and misunderstood and would possibly lead a great many faithful to adore the Blessed Virgin Mary as a part of the Holy Trinity, as a goddess of sorts, united to the Holy Trinity, and they wanted to avoid that at all costs. So it's been approved a few years ago by the Catholic Church after further investigation. But in this instance, if God chooses X amount of years for an approved apparition site to be formally recognized as being worthy of belief, so be it. Fatima finished in 1917 and was only recognized 13 years later, in 1930. That's also, I submit to you, an awful long period of time. But for that sort of recognition, those kind of studies must be undertaken. Sometimes they're very lengthy. They are absolutely necessary. And I'll tell you why. Those are not my words, but Father Laurentin's. If, God forbids, one day, the Catholic Church were to approve an apparition site, which would prove itself years later to be a falsehood, organized, set up from the beginning by hoodlums of sorts, no? It would be the entire credibility of the Roman Catholic Church that would shatter, that would fall on the floor. That is why those kind of timings, those kind of years of deep, meticulous, theological, and scientific tests are of the utmost importance. Now, they're taking all that away. And all these investigations must take place under the supervision of the local archbishop. It's of the utmost importance. It's somebody who is available there on the spot, familiar with the local culture, familiar with the local people, familiar with the local territory, for him to be able to undertake all this investigation. Look, in Akita, Bishop Ito ordered the investigation, the scientific investigation of the tears that came from the statue of the monastery, of the convent, rather. No? Something with the sweat that came from the statue, something that came from the blood. He knew who to address himself to, what college, what professor who was renowned locally as being atheist. Now, for a bishop, or rather for a cardinal, to undertake equivalent amount of research from the Vatican, it would take considerably more time, not less. More time to investigate who's who, what to do, with whose advice, blah, 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 blah. This statement will delay everything, would take away the power of a bishop to take the initiative in the investigation process, no? And would take considerably longer, and automatically, although every investigation about an alleged apparition site must be coming from a hostile point of view, always. And those are not my words again, they are Father Laurentin's. For indeed, if something comes from God, with all the hostility you want in the world, you will not be able to torpedo or sabotage or stop this particular apparition site to see the light of day. If it comes from the evil one, yes, you will, because the Catholic Church has the authority to do so. So this long period of time to investigate an alleged apparition site is absolutely, utterly necessary. And to try to shorten it up would be to take away the credibility of the investigation taken about such or such apparition site. It's absolutely imperative that the Catholic Church takes its time, approaches these apparition sites on all, under every angle, and finally, after a long, meticulous, deep investigation, declares itself either in favor or against. And this is not taken seriously. Again, we're dealing with either amateurs or somebody who have a secret agenda as far as apparition cases are concerned. It is what my experience in these circles are telling me.
No, definitely. Well, it's good to know when it comes more from the sources as well that you can rely on, because some people can maybe take things too easily and be naive. Others can take it and only see the bad, or just take everything easy. There's just one last part I thought would stand out and maybe a fair side of the point, because again, we've already spoke about Ratzinger, where he gave the thumbs up for Akita based on everything the bishop did submit. And then he gave the clear slate to Garabandal because of the mess of the investigation in the diocese 3 bishops later, and luckily that bishop, 1992, put it towards him, and yeah, clear it up, start fresh. So norms have to be in place there if something was going wrong, and of course Medjugorje. It keeps going back to that same point of what did the bishop say? Why was the bishop against it? And I've had people on in the past, including Anne Vucic, who's very much an expert with Medjugorje, and having known the visionaries and grew up just outside of Medjugorje the first couple of years of her life. She does interpreting for them. She's bringing a lot together with the movie now. And she says, well, which bishop? There's been at least 3 bishops in Medjugorje as well. And one
Mhm.
bishop who was in the Yugoslavian bishops' conference in the early 90s.
Episcopal College,
Yeah.
yes.
He told her in Chicago that he and others were deliberately picked by the bishop of the Diocese of Medjugorje to go against it. So there was bureaucracy and politics and a personal thing, which this document is trying to say you need to get away from your favoritism or your personal things and all the rest of it. But one key word that's, or the key norm that stands out, and I think this is going to be the key word maybe, is it Nihil or Nihil obstat? Now,
Nihil obstat.
yeah, this is one of the ones, because one part I've got here highlighted, it says, as a rule, these potential conclusions do not include the possibility of declaring that the phenomenon under discernment is of supernatural origin. That is, affirming the moral certainty that it originates from a decision willed by God in a direct way. Instead, as Pope Benedict XVI explained, granting a nihil obstat simply indicates that the faithful are authorized to give the phenomenon their adhesion in a prudent manner. Since a nihil obstat does not declare the events in question to be supernatural, it becomes even more apparent, as Pope Benedict XVI also said, how the phenomenon is only a help which is proffered, but its use is not obligatory. At the same time, this response naturally leaves open the possibility that in monitoring how the devotion develops, a different response may be required in the future. I think that's the prudence of the church, keeping an open mind to things progressing. And again, Medjugorje comes to mind there of how they're doing the pastoral thing with the bishop on site, sent from the Pope himself. The Vatican have taken over complete control for years now. The commissions put forward their positive outcomes and conclusions, which we still await the Pope to look at. And
Yeah. Mhm.
discerning as time still goes on. So, I mean, the fact that it's Pope Benedict who brought forth Nihil Obstat after what says with Garabandal and Akita, I kind of sense there's a continuation there now that they're not just going a complete polar opposite. What do you think?
No, agreed, but the nihil obstat was always there. And it's never been obligation. It's never, ever been the obligation of the faithful to believe in approved apparition sites, even Fatima, even Lourdes, even La Salette, Saint Nicholas, and so on and so forth. It's never, ever been. It's a formula that is used now that sounds very reasonable, but it's never been before an obligation for people, for the faithful, to believe in those approved apparition sites. It doesn't add to what was given by Pope Benedict XVI, or rather by Cardinal Ratzinger. It takes away. It complicates things. Let me ask you a question. If today there was an alleged apparition site, let us say in Ecuador, no, tens of thousands of miles away from kilometers from Rome, and it is being brought forth to the attention of the local Archbishop of, let's say, Quito. In view of these new norms and regulations, do you think that this is encouraging a bishop to address Rome and say, well, look, we have this particular case that has been reported to you. Will you please give your green light to initiate a formal investigation on the matter? Do you think that with this particular document that Rome, without knowing A from B of this particular situation, nothing, just the big outlines of these events, they will say, oh yes, absolutely, begin? No. They will come up, they can come up with any sort of excuse to say this is not satisfactory. The total amount of information brought forth, it is at judgment, it is not enough to justify a formal theological or scientific investigation, although they will not anymore, based on what the document states, start any scientific investigation, but a mere theological one. They have the complete carte blanche to decide from 10,000 kilometers away whether it is appropriate or justifiable to initiate such an investigation. And what's more, every bishop, knowing this, will wonder, should I do that? And if I do, will I be in the good lights of Rome or will I be in the bad lights of Rome? It hinders. It does not add or follow what was once a very strict and efficient protocol. It worked. And this is taking away instruments that helped to reach a successful, well thought out, well investigated case to determine whether an alleged apparition site comes from heaven or not. Again, this is my personal opinion based on my limited experience. I'm not Father Laurentin, of course. I don't pretend to be. My experience is extremely limited. Only is a few years. Father Laurentin was decades. But I only see negativity in all this. I don't see productivity, constructive changes. I see nothing more but what appears to be a hostile party trying to complicate a process which has worked up to this day in the process of discerning whether the true apparition site comes from heaven or not.
Yeah, well, you've made it very clear there, especially Xavier, where you take from it. I think I'm going to go back and reread over it and things like that again, and the rest of it, which I still have to. I just thought, for the fairness point, I get a couple of parts that stood out to me and what I was thinking as I read it. I know everyone watching will have their own comments and thoughts on it. Please do leave it in the box below. I would say, Xavier, in my final words, I hope you're wrong. But at the same time, I've got great trust of you because we know through your work, your experience, and not to forget, you put a lot of historic apparitions in your best-selling book, Revelations, which I keep very close to hand, as always.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. I try not to talk anymore about my book because I don't want to attract attention on myself on the book. The only thing that matters is the message from heaven. That's all. The rest is irrelevant, insignificant even. So yeah, I hope I was not too. I hope I did not disappoint. I continue to be profoundly frustrated with a politic that I understand less and less every time coming from Rome. A politic which I find contradictory to that of the predecessors of this Pope and to the dogma of the faith. You mentioned fiducia supplicans. To me, it's so evidently a new interpretation of the teachings of Catholic teachings that is being offered to us in a silver platter. It's very difficult to remain calm and to continue to remain faithful to the Church. And I know that it has affected a great many Catholics, some of whom, for instance, I would dare mention my ever so good friend, as good as you, John Henry Weston, who is going through a tremendous tumult of conscience right now. He is profoundly frustrated. He does not, and not just him, a great many other Catholics, other captains of their own podcasts. Now, it's a question, no matter what. I think that's the attack of the enemy. To remain cold-headed, not to be disturbed, to continue our prayers, to continue frequenting the holy sacraments of the altar, and continue to ask God to illuminate the Pope. Yes, and even Cardinal Fernandez, and to remain at peace. Everything that is not peace is inspired by the enemy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I put that in my own video just last week when you're really starting to see the trend of Antichrist, like the Eurovision and things like that I did with the video and stuff, because this is probably for the next video for us about, I'm starting to see a real clear case of like, you know what, spirit of Antichrist really is before our very eyes right now. on the TV like never before, this trend. But I'm still very much at peace because I'm loving the messages. I'm living the faith as best as I can. And I'm experiencing what Our Lady says in her messages. Pray until prayer becomes a joy for you. I've been feeling that come back again just this week, being excited to spend time in the Rosary, looking forward to fasting and Wednesdays and Fridays. Lord knows I have to. But I hope with this, maybe in the final words from my point of view, is they would be so stupid to do anything in a future judgment that would go against Fatima, Lourdes, Akita, not just because the church has already said yes to the supernatural side of it, but the fact that everything given from these seers, these children, it's all came true, especially with Fatima. And the link to Akita and everything else that the church may hold on to that we haven't seen in the public domain. I'd like to think the Holy Spirit still has his way of getting through. And I saw an article I was going to read, but apparently they did ask about the church's stance with Medjugorje, and Our Lady says that's for me to sort, or that's for me to handle. Don't worry about it, because everything's part of the plan at the end of the day. And yeah, if they do touch the ones like that, like Fatima or Akita, Lourdes, La Salette, then I think that's going to get my back up quite a bit. And we know the amount of signs of the times that are coming that are fitting for now. Then it is the case we have to approach with caution of what we're listening to coming from the church and looking at the signs of division, etc. But let's hope the purpose of it and everything going forward is more to do with the ones coming in the future, because I do think the church has to address that. Even Jesus says, "Many will come in my name and deceive many." So there has to be the discernment of now and the future. But for me, I always look back to the older ones, like are contained in your book. I think you put in the book what I try to put in video when it comes to the apparitions. So leave the old alone, especially when they've been when they've been given the thumbs up. That's my final say on it. But what if you want to finish off your final words with it all? What would it be?
No, I think you're absolutely. I join you in this very noble thinking of yours. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and just would like to ask, as I always do, all your viewers to pray for you. What you're doing is of the, I don't even know if you realize yourself however important and successful you are in your task, in your mission, Mark. You're doing something superb, and I ask everyone to continue to pray for Mark, so that you continue your mission and you continue in the direction you're in. This is asked of you, and for your lovely wife and your family, and the MacLean ah
Plan?
clan in Scotland, yes, to whom I have great deal of affection. And if it's not an imposition, I ask everyone also to pray also for our friend John Henry Weston, for Father Michel Rodriguez, and for myself. If it's not an imposition, I place myself in, recommend myself to your prayers, and I thank you all.
Be assured of them, Xavier. And until next time, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Get your comments below. That's a hot topic of discussion. Thumbs up, like, share, you know what to do. As I've been saying recently, that's your way of casting the nets. So let's get it out there for all the people that still to come in next time. Take care and God bless.